It's taking CM Your Way to a whole new level.
CM Your Way developmentally. I love it. Are you a Charlotte Mason homeschooler with a special needs child? Have you ever thought about taking a Charlotte Mason approach from a developmental viewpoint? Today, I'm talking with Amy Bodkin. She's our special needs consultant over at the Plenary, and she's going to tell you about the developmental form guide. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. Okay, Amy, we have enjoyed having you as our special needs consultant over at the Plenary so much. You've helped so many families, and I want you to talk a little bit about the special needs developmental guide that you just came out with so that families know that it's available to them, and then also, you know, how they can use it and how it can help them.
When I read Charlotte Mason, I automatically read it developmentally because I've got all of this research in my head that I've read over the years. And so when I read it, it's kind of like Charlotte Mason didn't include every single thing she was thinking. And so there's these blanks that you don't always know are there. And so all this research I've read over the years, of the last 100 years that she's not been around, it fills in those blanks. And it helps me kind of see, oh, okay, she's talking developmentally. This is where the child goes from here to here. And it's very much a building approach. Everything builds upon the other. And that we talk a lot of times in Charlotte Mason circles about taking the next step, not trying to jump to the next grade or the next form, but taking whatever the next step is. And that's what we're talking about, is developmentally taking the next step. And there's many, many different things that happen at a particular level developmentally. We're looking at communication, we're looking at social emotional development, we're looking at physical development, both gross and fine. We're looking at cognitive development, communication, all of these different parts, and they all interconnect because children are people, and we have all these different aspects, but we want them to be balanced, because if they're not balanced, then we're not going to be ready to go to those next steps developmentally, because they all interconnect.
I love that you look at it from a developmental point of view. And I think that is so important for any child and any family, to look at where your child is in those developmental steps and adjust their schoolwork, you know, or your schedule based on that. But it's also so much more important for a child that has special needs, right?
Yes, yes.
So how does that help them?
When you're looking at it for a typical child, a lot of times it's already grouped for you because it's grouped by grade or it's grouped by form. And Charlotte does this in her writings. She says multiple times she's talking about the typically developing child.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that her philosophy has nothing to do with special needs children. She's speaking to the largest part of the room. And because she broke it down to more of like the average child, it gave us an idea of where the steps are. So she talks in the beginning of Form 1 about how, okay, now you can do narration. Because she spent the first 6 years developing the motor skills necessary to be able to speak. You spent those years developing vocabulary and the ability to communicate, and the social emotional awareness for some of those higher cognitive skills as well. There was just so much development going on in those first 6 years that now you're ready to narrate, whereas before you weren't. Now you're ready to learn to read, before you weren't.
And I love that in the developmental guide, you include everything from, say, like pre-K, you know, age 2-ish, all the way to age 14. And it's all in one guide. So, and you touched a little bit on the different categories that you go through in the guide. And let's talk a little bit about each one. Just so people know, here's the developmental form guide, and I've only printed out a little bit, but it's a lot. It's a lot of info, right? And it's fabulous info. And
It's almost 100 pages long.
I know you put so much work into it, and it's so great. And here's the table of contents, and you have 6 different categories. So let's talk a little bit about each one. So the first one is category 1, social emotional development. And you put that first for a reason, right?
Right. The first thing that we are really developing is social emotional. And it's not so much that we're seeing great results out of our children, but we're developing that bond and that relationship. And it's so important to the child's development. I mean, without that, you're going to have problems in every other area. It's that important.
Category 2 is communication. Obviously, that's important.
It's always very important. But in a lot of ways, social emotional is the first way that we communicate with our children. And so communication is expanding how much we can communicate with our children.
And so within each category, you've listed the Charlotte Mason subjects that go with that category. So for example, communication, you obviously have narration and composition, dictation, but you also have stuff like foreign language, Latin, recitation, reading instruction, grammar, and singing.
Yes, all of those are communication, and communication continues to develop over the course of a lifetime.
That's true.
So even mom's still working on developing more communication skills.
All right, category 3, gross motor.
Very important. It not only allows us to move in space, but it also helps us to be able to take in input through our senses to tell us about the world that's around us, because all 5 of our senses help inform our brain of what is going on around us. And that's really helpful when we're starting to learn all kinds of things, but especially when we're talking about later on things like math, because math is spatial. And so how you move in space informs your understanding of spatial concepts.
Interesting. Okay. Category 4, fine motor. Obviously, that kind of follows gross motor.
But also ties into some very different types of skills, ones that can be very frustrating, such as handwriting and handicrafts. But so important, because your fine motor skills are what's going to allow you to further that communication that you began with the communication section. Because writing allows us to be able to communicate on a deeper level.
So category 5 is life skills development. How would you describe that?
Life skills are those skills that we learn to be able to get along in life. And it's such a broad category, because nobody's going to learn all the same life skills, or even all of the life skills. It's something that we're constantly learning. Right now, with being in a quarantine, I've seen so many moms talking about learning how to make sourdough, or learning how to can jam, or just all kinds of different things that they've been working on learning at home that they never learned before. So there isn't a list of the things that you have to or should have to. It's whatever skills you need to be able to live life. But they're also important, and Charlotte mentions them as work in her books.
Yes.
So it's definitely a Charlotte Mason subject, but it's one that doesn't really get a lot of attention, but it is one that should get a lot of attention for our special needs students, especially because some of those skills are going to have to be specifically taught, or they're going to have to be modified, or we might even choose to teach skills very differently, or different types of skills than what we might usually do.
Okay, and the last category is cognitive development.
Cognitive development is the one that we all want to start with, and it's the last one we should start with. We all want to read books with our kids and have those awesome discussions where we're talking about living ideas with them. But in reality, that's the last section to really start to develop, because you have to have communication to be able to go deeper on those subjects. And reading and writing really helps. And just more life experience. So even your life skills and your social emotional development, all of that helps you come to the table with those deeper subjects such as literature and history and science. So it's the last one in the developmental guide for that reason.
So another thing I wanted you to mention is the fact that one of your big goals with the developmental guide was to keep it affordable, because that's a big concern of yours, is to keep things affordable for special needs families. And so what we did was to make it an add-on to the form guides over on the Plenary website. So can you talk a little bit about how it's an add-on and how that works?
Yes, our original idea was not to have it as an add-on, but to include the forms. But like you said, once we realized that it was going to be almost 100 pages, adding all of that together was going to make it way too expensive just because of the costs necessary for different parts of it.
Well, and also because you include, pre-K to Form 3,
right,
age 14. So that's like 4 form guides that you're getting. And to add that cost on, it would have been so cost prohibitive. But this way, but this way they can buy just 1 or 2 form guides, whatever they need for their family, and the special needs developmental guide, right?
Yes, and also that way you only have to buy one form guide, or one add-on anyways, for special needs and development. So that way you don't have to decide which form guide you have to buy for your special needs child and then which form guide to buy for your typical children. You just buy the add-on and it covers everything. So it ended up simplifying things and also allowing us to keep things as inexpensive as possible, which is really important to me. Anything that we do involving special needs, we try to keep prices super low, because I really don't like, as a special needs parent, having to go find a resource and then having to pay 50% more just because it's for a special needs child. We do that with the developmental add-on. We also do that with the consultations, and anything that I can do to cut costs without cutting quality, I'm always willing to do. So.
Excellent. Okay, so maybe talk a little bit about how the developmental and the form guide work together. Like, why do you need both?
You have to have both. There's no way you could use the developmental add-on without the form guide. The form guides are set up to explain how each form worked and what Charlotte Mason did. But the form guides are critical to the special needs guide, because if you don't have the form guides, then you're not going to know what Charlotte did, because I didn't go through that. I did talk some about it, but I didn't go through exactly what she did. My goal was talking about how we can take what she did and do what will fit that child, how we can look at what she did developmentally. But Rachel, when you did the form guides, you were breaking down exactly what she did. Right. And I didn't include any of that in the developmental app. So they really work best together. And quite honestly, even if you don't have a child that is diagnosed with a learning disability, I think that the developmental add-on could be really beneficial. It may keep you from being a little bit frustrated at times.
I completely agree, because like I was saying, that when you have that information about the developmental steps, it's almost like, a child climbing a ladder, and you have to get this step first, and then the next step, and then the next step. When you have that info, you can tailor that child's education to that child so that there's less frustration, right, for both you and your child. And it's just easier, smooth sailing, so to speak.
It's taking CM Your Way to a whole new level.
CM Your Way developmentally. I love it. Okay, well, is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the developmental guide?
We couldn't include everything. It would have been a massive textbook, possibly an entire series of textbooks. But we included as much as we possibly could. And if that's not enough, or if you want some hand-holding, or if you really just want someone to walk you through it, you can always do a consult. And having purchased the add-on guide will only be helpful.
Right, and your consults are fabulous. I've heard so many great things from so many families, and you have a bit of a backlog right now, right? You have like 10 families that are in the queue waiting for a consultation.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm getting very good at going through them, so right now I'm able to keep up, but they've been popular.
So hopefully the developmental guide will help some families maybe not need a consultation, but same thing with the form guides, they walk you through so much, but if you need that extra hand-holding and that specialization, especially with the special needs and testing and all that sort of stuff, you are here.
Yes, the testing with the consults is really probably the thing that sets it apart from the guide. Because there are sometimes things that I can discover through using some free testing that you cannot find easily through observing as a parent or reading through a guide. So that's probably the biggest benefit between the two. But we tried to pack as much as we possibly could into that developmental guide, and it shows because it's almost 100 pages.
All right, Amy, thank you so much. We appreciate all your work and all your help for families. And if anybody needs to get in touch with you, just head over to the Plenary website and they can send you an email, right?
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.